There's a rather remarkable account early on in the book of Genesis. In chapter 12 of this first book in the Old Testament, God begins to lay the groundwork for the creation of his people Israel. Now, to be honest, God really began that framework from day one, but this is where God makes a very clear declaration to a Hebrew man named Abram. To Abram, God says this: "Leave your country, your people, and your father's household, and go to the land I will show you. I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you, I will curse. And all peoples on earth will be blessed through you." So Abram left as the Lord had told him, and Lot went with him. Abram was 75 years old when he set out from Haran. He took his wife Sarai, his nephew Lot, all the possessions they had accumulated, and the people they had acquired in Haran. And they set out for the land of Canaan, and they arrived there. That was Genesis 12, 1 through 5. And basically, God spoke to Abram and told him to gather up his family and everything he owns because he's moving. Now, I don't know if you caught it as I read it, but God told Abram to move to a land I will show you. Basically, he has told Abram, you just head out, you, your family, and everything you own, and I'll let you know when you get to where I want you to be. Now, can you imagine? Answering God's call to join Creekside Christian Fellowship's pastoral team, my family and I just completed a move from the West Coast to Southeast Texas. My wife and my son and I and all our possessions made the 1,500-mile trek from Southern California to our new home here in Rosenberg, Texas. And if you've ever made such a move yourself, then you know a move to that degree is quite the ordeal. Now, imagine making such a move but having no idea where you will end up. Let's also not lose sight of the fact that we're told that Abram was 75 years old at the time. The move spanned over 400 miles of barren desert landscape with no moving trucks, no moving services, and again, with no known final destination in view. Now, with this context in view, there's an account of Abram and his nephew that I want to highlight this week. I think you will find the timeless principle contained herein to be quite applicable to the current state of affairs in our country. This account is recorded in Genesis 13 and pertains to a falling out that Abram has with his nephew Lot. Sometime after arriving in Canaan, where God told Abram to stop and plant roots, strife arose between the households of Abram and Lot. You see, both Abram and Lot became incredibly wealthy and each had great herds of various forms of livestock. So much so, it was difficult for the land to support all the animals. Abram's herdsmen bickered with Lot's herdsmen and vice versa. Genesis 13, 8 and 9 details how they handled this strife. Abram approached his nephew, it says, and said, let's not have any quarreling between you and me or between your herdsmen and mine, for we are brothers. Is not the whole land before you? Let's part company. If you go to the left, I'll go to the right. If you go to the right, I'll go to the left. In short, they came together, recognized strife existed, and thought it best to amicably part ways in order for peace to remain between them and their households. So Lot packed up his household and his livestock and headed east and resettled in the region of Sodom. Abram remained in Canaan. Now, I'll do my best to summarize what happened next because I really want to get to our point. Lot and his possessions are carried off as a result of warring kings. The region of Sodom fell to rival kings, and everything and everyone was carried off as plunder. Word quickly then got to Abram that his nephew had been seized, his nephew and his household actually had been seized and was carried off as a captive. So Abram and his warriors swiftly went and freed his nephew from captivity. All right, so here really is my point. Obviously, Abram hadn't canceled his nephew. Even though they thought it best to part ways, they still cared for one another and looked out for each other's best interest. So when Abram learned of Lot's capture, Abram immediately went about the business of freeing his nephew. We live in a time and a place where when strife arises between parties, they seek to cancel one another. This cancel culture, as it's become known, is this mass practice of attempting to ostracize someone via online, social media, or even in-person campaigns. Simply stated, the goal of the cancel culture is not to restore, but to destroy. Friendships, working relationships, and families are being destroyed because rather than deciding to amicably part ways and put some physical distance between one another, we instead decide to go scorched earth and write one another out of our lives for good. Some go a step further and actively attempt to ruin the other through malice, gossip, slander, in an attempt to get others terminated from employment, kicked out of an organization, or otherwise banned from social media platforms. As followers of Jesus, this should not be. Let us not forget that malice and gossip and slander are to be put to death by the power of the gospel in our hearts and lives. It is acceptable to recognize that you don't get along with someone. Nowhere are we commanded to be everyone's best friend. We're allowed to disagree, sometimes even vehemently. It's okay to be in opposition of another person's beliefs or practices, but it is unacceptable to actively and purposely attempt to ruin someone on account of it. Cancel culture is not compatible with the Christian faith. Frankly, the stakes are just too high. We cannot live up to God's standards as the light and salt of the earth if we actively seek to ruin the reputation and character of another on account of a personal disagreement. Instead of acting to destroy, pray for those with whom you disagree. After all, we are to love our enemies. So pray for patience and forgiveness and the guidance of the Holy Spirit. In conclusion, you may need to follow Abram and Lot's lead, agree to disagree, and create space between you and another person, but do not make it your life's goal to ruin that person in response, regardless of the source of strife. The Apostle Paul, as he was drawing his first letter to the Corinthian church to a close, he wrote this: "Do everything in love." Now, I've been accused of being a deep thinker, so I did a quick Greek word study on the word translated everything. It's the Greek word pas. And you know what it means? It means everything or all things. It's not that complicated. So when Paul wrote do everything in love, he meant everything. As the people of God, followers of Jesus, inhabited by the Holy Spirit, we are to be known by our love for others, not the pain and destruction we can cause in the name of political, relational, or religious differences. Let us rise above the fray and be known for our love and care of others, friend and foe alike. Sound hard? You better believe it. And at times, it is. But by His grace, God will provide what you need to put His word to practice. All right, well, that's enough for me this week. See you this weekend. Great talk, everybody. God bless.